Hi, everybody. It's Dr. T again, and I'm doing another one of my interviews. And today, I wanted all of you to meet the amazing, astounding coach, Kristen Rice, who is really the longest standing member of my team, of the Dr. Tracy Inc. team and the Live Your Potential Academy team. And Kristen is one of these people that really makes this entire machine go. All of these transformations, so many things that you just evolved our company to be able to do what we do today and be able to do what we do for people. And I've really been gifted with having somebody like her in my life and somebody like her by my side and somebody like Kristen to do these amazing human transformations with. And when I first met Kristen, it was like an answer to my prayers, right? Somebody that thought like me, really got stuff like me, and really subscribed to wanting to be, the healthiest, most powerful version of ourselves, and in a way that just made a lot more sense than the things that we'd done before that. So I just have been blessed to have Kristen in my life, and our clients have been blessed to have somebody that I want you to all know is truly one of the top transformational human beings on planet Earth. And she's here with us today. Welcome,
Thank you.
Kristen.
Such a beautiful and lovely, just warm welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. So, everyone, why I wanted to bring on Coach Kristen and start to introduce you all to my phenomenal group of coaches who are, you all are hearing me all the time in this group, and yet uh, my team this is really a collaborative effort in doing the work that we do. And I wanted to introduce these amazing people to you and have you get their perspective, which is incredibly powerful and unique and wonderful. And so I'm just going to start by, being able to have you all get to know Kristen a little bit and how we kind of came to be. And so, Kristen, let's just connect on what was it back when we first connected, about this methodology, about what it represents or what it does, or just what was it in general that made you want to, move forward in a way in your life to work with this, to have this in your life, to develop it for yourself and others. What was it for you?
Yeah. So much, right? I mean, when we met, I was going through a transformational point in my life. I was transitioning out of a corporate career and moving into the health and wellness industry. And I started working with Dr. T in a business capability, actually. And we were working on a project together that really looked at addiction, and it looked at the root causes of it, and it looked at the the whole way that Dr. T saw the nuances of addiction versus the mainstream model that we are all very, very aware of. All the different limiting beliefs around it. Very much in the AA community model, which we love and think is just such a great resource and supportive tool. But there are limitations. And so we were working on a project together, and you were giving me your perspective. And I just remember, so you had given me like an audio download to listen to, and addiction has plagued my family. It was my stepfather, had issues. I've had other very close family members of mine that have had very significant issues. I used, alcohol certainly in my life as a numbing tool, a self-medication tool, for things like PTSD and things that I experienced when I was younger. And so I was reading all of this and listening to all of this stuff that basically confirmed everything I knew inside.
Yep.
Everything that I knew to be true about my experiences, everything that I knew to be true about where I saw that the current model didn't actually work. You know, I there I can say with certainty that there was this point in time where I looked at a friend and said, I need to go to rehab. Like I have a significant issue here. Um, and I didn't have the means, and I didn't, quite frankly, have the like gusto to do it. But that was when I was really, really struggling. And I just mentioned this, but I had really significant PTSD, and I was self-medicating. I wasn't seeing a therapist. I wasn't on medication. I wasn't working through it. So my solution was to check out a bit, and it was a very real need for me to do that from a survival standpoint. Now you move forward 13 years, I don't have a drinking problem. Like I don't, like I am, like there's no issue with alcohol in any way. I can have a glass of wine, I cannot have a glass of wine. There's no issue with it, because the real core of it was the emotional distress I was experiencing, and that was a symptom of that. And so when you started talking about that, and I knew the experiences I had had with alcohol, for example, and where there was a point in my time where I really needed help with that. But then at this new time, I didn't need help with it. So I never latched on to that feeling like, that there was this title that described everybody that ever dealt with this issue. And so the idea that it's not about the substance, and that it was about what was happening underneath the substance, I just remember being like, yes, that's it, right? Because everybody I've experienced that have had substance abuse issues, it has never been about the substance. It has always been about what was going on within them, and about the pain that they had suffered or were suffering, and all the things that they had experienced. So I remember as we were working through that project, just being like, yes, this person gets it. This is what I've always known inside. And somebody's finally put all the pieces together. And so I think that was the turning point for me, and being like, okay, this woman knows what she's talking about. I want more of this.
Yeah, and for my part, it was this amazing moment. Kristen wrote some articles on my behalf, and I was seeing how she would do those, and it was honestly the most genius, wonderful thing, the most incredible, just synchronicity between us, right? So this very powerful ability that we were going to be able to articulate that, something that Kristen's a phenomenal writer and just communicator in general. And we were able to just have this shared sensibility about it, and allow that in different media articles and things to serve people. And it was like, oh my gosh. And I felt the same way. I thought, somebody gets it, right? Somebody can hear what I'm saying and get it. And this is just going to help so many people, right? We didn't know what that path was going to look like, but it was a really amazing life-changing moment for myself too. And right, as they say, the rest is history. But so Kristen, then when you think about your path you're in this company, your leadership, and working in different roles, still I want to connect to, what's your sense in general of this methodology, this process, this perspective that is now ours, right, as a team, and what something that we share and utilize in helping people in the program and in the work we do with them. What is it about that is really speaks to you, is what made it, for you want to adopt it, integrate it, and then share it with people? What is it about it for you?
So I think for me, it's just the fact that it works. There's that element.
Yep.
It's highly transformational. So being able to bear witness and have my own experiences as I was working with you through all kinds of different facets, even before we went through the coach training process. really just seeing how, just by being exposed to the content, how it changed the way I looked at things. And I actually, I just jumped off of a call for our program before this, and we were just talking about this, about how the emotional mastery that you gain for yourself, that changes everything, because it starts here and then it ripples out, and then it changes your relationships, and then it changes here, because when you can be the calm in the center of the storm changes, because you're not adding wind to it, you're not adding, like, you're not fueling the fire. And so with our methodology and everything that we teach, it really starts from a place of understanding your true self, getting emotionally aligned and like strong and in your power. It's like, it's an extremely empowering way to live your life. And it allows you then to just like build out the rest of it. And you are able to then see what you have control over versus what you don't have control over. You're able to have different relational qualities with things that you've looked at in a different way. You rewrite your stories, you rewrite your own story based on the new perspectives. And I think something that's so important for people to know is that we inherit our thought patterns and our behavioral issues from the people who have always surrounded us in our life. And so if you don't stop and shake that up, then nothing changes, right? And so when you actually stop and you take a moment and you reset the playing field, like, everything's different. And I think that there's no better testament than just even each of us in our own lives and how we've reset the playing field for ourselves, as well as all of our clients, and just being able to watch the amazing transformations that occur, and just seeing how it's so effective. So there's nothing really that I don't necessarily connect with when it comes to like the methodology, because it's just working from the inside out.
Yeah. And Kristen, for people who, they've been in that conventional factory medicine experience, the stuff that's just, it's still really prevalent out there, and they say, I've got this diagnosis. I've been diagnosed with narcissistic, personality disorder, or borderline personality, or bipolar, or any number of things, right? I've just been depressed for 20 years. All of these different things that we see as people approach us to work with us in our program, and where they feel like, this is what their identity is, and these are their diagnoses, and they can really wonder when we're talking to them about the fact that this can actually all change, whatever the stuff is called now, whatever your set of things that might be called bipolar 2 or something. And it's hard for people to wrap their brain around that this kind of process can really be the game changer for that. What would you say to them?
Well, so first I would say, if you're in a place where you're really struggling, and you're relying on the conventional routes, it obviously, if you're here, it hasn't done what it needed to do for you yet. And I was a person who was like, oh, I'll try going to therapy again. This never worked for me. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work for some people, because it does. And it's very helpful for a lot of different reasons. But for me personally, I never had a transformational experience in it. At the time that I started working with Dr.T, I actually was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And, it's interesting because at the time, I was dealing with an autoimmune disease that I had for 3.5 years at the time. I was on disability for my corporate job because I had so many health problems that I couldn't even get out of bed on a daily basis. Like, it was a really, really, really difficult time in my life. And as part of my disability, I had to go see a psychiatrist, and they diagnosed me with bipolar disorder and put me on lithium. And I didn't attach too much meaning to it. I really didn't. Yeah. But I can see how when you have a diagnosis like that, like you can latch onto it because you're like, this is why. This is the reason why I'm like this, and it's not my fault. It kind of like, it can give you, because I did that for a minute. And
we all like have. Yeah.
Yeah, it can give you an out. Like I'm not responsible for my own behavior because this is something that is wrong with me. I'm not going to, I want to be clear that I'm not saying that diagnoses aren't important, and that because they are, they certainly are, and they are, they show us where we're at and what we need to do for ourselves. Do I believe that I have bipolar disorder? No, I do not. Do I believe that I have thyroid problems that causes I have hyperactive thyroid that causes my body to get sped up at times? I do. I believe that. But I was exhibiting the symptoms of bipolar disorder because I was so out of sorts in my life. And I was in such in the worst place I've ever been. I was in a breaking point. I was having a nervous breakdown. And so, yes, I was not sleeping for 3 days. And again, that part of that has to do with my thyroid, but because all these doctors were operating in these silos, like nobody was like talking to each other and looking at the big picture of what was going on with me, which there was so much going on with me. So I had this diagnosis, and I could have used it as a crutch, and I could be on medication for the rest of my life. I haven't been on medication in 5 years. I'm not bipolar. I am completely the most stable emotional human being that you'll meet.
Important to this team.
Not the most, but I'm stable. I'm a pretty stable human being. Not to say I don't have good and bad days, but I think that that's really important, because what happens is as soon as somebody gets a diagnosis, especially when they're in a very vulnerable place in their life, it can become something that you latch onto as a reason for why things are the way they are. And the reality is, had I done that, then I would not be living the life I'm living today. Instead, I took power over my life, and I said, well, let me look at all that's going on, and let me be super mindful, and let me pay attention to everything that my body is telling me. And if I put this in my body, how does it feel? And if I don't do this, then how does it feel? And so I actually went with the thinking I had bipolar disorder, and let me work through using this methodology, how to support myself. And again, just so that we are very clear, I'm not saying for anybody to get off medication, because that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when you start to really come into and look at something from an objective, gathering data standpoint in your own life, and you're not relying on somebody who sat across from you in a chair for 15 minutes of your whole life, you might actually find different answers. But you can only know that if you're asking the right questions. You can only know that if you've been taught how. You can only know that if you have control over your emotions so that they're not clouding your judgment. And we are the most over-medicated population in the history of the world. And there are serious consequences for that, and we're seeing it, and people are miserable. And when you are using drugs that numb your brain, you're not living your life fully if you don't actually need them. And so if somebody out there is, on medications or whatever, you may actually need them, right? You may find that in this, you may find that in your discovery of it as you're going through and saying yes, I need this, but you may not. And the fact that we are so overly medicated and overly prescribed, it is something that I really hope that people try to take the powerful position of getting control over their lives instead of relying on something else outside of them to do it.
Yeah. Kristen, thank you so much, because you're speaking to not only the effect of what we've all applied to ourselves on this team, to continue to upgrade ourselves in our health and our well-being and our empowerment. But you're also speaking to what our clients over the years, through receiving the process, but also becoming experts in the process, what that has done by each piece of the process that we've brought into being their integrative strategic plan, right? Our strategic approach becomes their strategic thinking now for the rest of their life. So anything you want to say about how important that is, about, because you were saying about if you know what to ask, about how this process, about that piece, about becoming, not only having a process that helps you, but helps you become the expert that you need to be, because there's no one else going to be that right for you. So anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I think, the majority of people, they just live their life going from one thing to the next, right? You're kind of like, you're just in the motions, and you're not really stopping to ask any questions. You're not really stopping to examine. You're not stopping to look at things. You're not stopping to investigate. But it's not even that. It's not just asking and investigating. It's knowing what are the things, like how to make assessments, how to know if something is or isn't right for you in actuality. People just aren't taught that, right? And so when you're thinking about how you can have a happy and healthy life, like that seems really overwhelming. Like that's because where do you start with that? Like how, if you knew what was going to make you happy, you would have been happy like 18 years ago, right? So the issue is that we don't know, and the people who raised us don't know, because that, if I can just postulate that if you are having a very hard time, that is very likely that you are not coming from a super healthy, happy family system.
Yeah.
And honestly, at this point, I don't know any family that doesn't have, it's just, very strong level of dysfunction. So,
Yeah.
so there's really something to having somebody give you instructions on what it is you need to look for, what it is you need to be doing in order to be making the right choices for yourself, because every single person is different. Your body is different. The way your mind works is different. Your environments are different. Everything is different. And so there's not a one size fits all strategy, but we look at, here are the different things you do to figure out your own strategy.
Lovely.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
it's perfect. It's perfect
because summary.
It's perfect because that the idea that the great thing about when we get to see our clients progress, but then know that we get to watch them become the experts, right? And then they start delivering expertise back to us, right? Then they have more intelligence on it, and it just feeds upon itself. It's a very different model that ultimately our clients become, as the same way my coaches did, and then they all teach me everything. The same thing is so wonderful with our clients who get themselves out of these prisons that they've been in themselves and in the regular system of trying to get well, and then sets them on a path of having so much expertise that they start telling us about amazing things that are possible, and part of things that we can think about adding to help other clients as well. So it really, it's a phenomenal experience to have. And it makes me want to just kind of also check in with you, Kristen, on, what it's like to be somebody who, because let me just say this for y'all, that Kristen changed her capacity. And let me just go to there. Kristen transitioned her capacity in our company at a certain point. And Kristen, what was it about, Kristen became our coach, she's like my right-hand coach here. And what was it about that made you want to completely shift into that transformational leadership piece?
Well, so, at first I was really a part of just, building the company, right? Mm-hmm. So like she said, I was the right hand let's make this thing happen. And what was happening was you and I were, doing coach assignments and like, okay, this new person's coming in and this is their deal and and they need to do this. And so we were doing this together, and it was like, why am I just not like, why am I not just helping these people? Because I can see it so clearly. And it was one of those, moments that I didn't intentionally go through the coach training program. I put on the coach training program. So then I was also trained because we were training the coaches. And then all of a sudden it was like we were working the higher level of all the cases. And it was just one of those moments where it was like, okay, wait, no, this is so natural. And this is this is actually so much easier. And I enjoy this so much more than the other stuff. That this just is the natural, what I should be doing. And to be able to be a part of people's transformations in that way, I mean, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like being able to be a part of somebody's journey in that capacity, and to be able to witness growth and be there to support people in the process. And I am very much a truth teller. I'm a very compassionate person, and I think people would say I'm sweet by nature. But I also am, because I care about people, I will tell you exactly what I see. And be a mirror for you, because it's hard. It's hard to see yourself fully when you're so in your stuff. So I think that there's just a certain part of who I am as a person that allows me to come into my role as a coach and be so effective. And so it was just a natural, like, oh, this is so easy, and this is it feels good, and it's really like, I love working with people. I love people, and so why wouldn't I want to help people change their lives?
Yeah. I remember this point, Kristen, where this was happening anyway, but I recognized that our joke was like, Kristen would recite me back to me, like I'd be like which one of us was connecting on needing some sort of an input or something, and it just became this very entertaining loop of Kristen reflecting me back to me and go, oh, that sounds really good. She's like, well, you taught me that. or Kristen would say something to me and I think, oh, that's so brilliant. Like and to have people in your life like that, who are on that wavelength, who care about the outcomes so much, and think on this high level. And it's been incredible what we've been able to do for people. And so with that, Kristen, also like your sense of just what it's like, say with people, if people could help people understand that when we say eliminating things like depression, anxiety, bipolar, autoimmune disease, and very, very extreme mental health disorders, we really do mean that. But I'm curious, Kristen, what you would say about being on the inside and being a prominent leader in this team who has been a part of working with people where other providers, some of, just very well-intended providers, did whatever they did, but you as an individual leader in this team have been absolutely responsible for changing the course of people's lives that were diagnosed to just be set down a certain path and stuck there. So any perspective you want to add to that about being able to do that being true, and what it's like?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I remember, before we really put your methodology, our work that we do here into this program, and we were working, we were just taking in cases one-on-one, and they tended to be super complex, right? Generally people that other people had given up on, or had said, well, this is their diagnosis, that this is how their life's going to be for the rest of their life, and you can try to make it better, but whatever. And I remember having a conversation for one of the last clients that we brought in, and it was so interesting because I at one point I had to stop. I stopped myself in the conversation, and I said, I know that this probably sounds like I'm trying to sell you on something, but I'm not. Like, I'm literally telling you how I see it. And this is what's going to happen if you go this route. Because at this point, this person only had a couple options. And so it's like, if you go this route, this is what I see for you based on what I know to be true in the system with these particular disorders. And then I can tell you what we can do and what I know we can do for you and how we're different. And that includes, having the right medication, but not over medicating.
Right.
For example, like we were talking earlier, like this particular person 100% needs to be on medication, but it needs to be the right medication, and it needs to be the right level, and then so that they can still have a life and do things that these other people were saying that they'd never be able to do, because there's just a way that they're outcasted immediately. And so I think when we look at experiences like that, and the beautiful clients that I've had the privilege to work with through some of these really difficult transitions for them, and I look at where they are now, it's unreal. It's unreal to think that if they would have taken that first 3 opinions, what their life might look like. And it's really scary. It's scary because that's what's happening
all over, yeah,
on a wide level. This is what's happening. This is what you have. This is your condition. This is what it's going to be. Here's your 5 prescriptions. And now you have all the terrible symptoms from those prescriptions, but that's just the way it is. Yeah. So sorry, that sucks. You got this. That is not a great way to be. And instead of looking at returning people back to their healthy self, which is what our natural state is, it's all about just throwing things at these symptoms and symptom management, which is not effective. So I connect into those conversations about just what is possible for people. And I mean, I know firsthand what's possible, because like I said, I had an autoimmune issues, and my body is incredibly sensitive, and I know that about myself at this point now, and I know what I need to do to keep myself healthy. I wouldn't know that had I not been exposed to this methodology in this program, and I would probably still be not functioning at my highest capacity. I'd probably still be in chronic pain and be on, I had a pill sorter that I was taking 25 medications a day, and and then I wondered why I couldn't get out of bed but the thought is oh, I'm never going to get off. I'm always going to have to be on this medication. And that's not true. It's just not true. It's just that people aren't aware that there's a different way.
Well, and Kristen, you're speaking to something so important, which is in being able to have that perspective and know what we've seen before people have come to us. And we all have this sort of way that on our team, when we are able to facilitate these kinds of results through the most difficult things, and because we're really a crew that will do whatever it takes to get the result, no matter how much somebody is really struggling. But we all know this thing that that you really got connected to, which is we know that there are millions probably of people that are they just go into the other pathway, and they're floating around in that experience. They're in the system, and they're doing everything they can, and they're also, that's the paradigm for what they're supposed to do. And for a long time, we know this, and we want to make it so that we can we can be everywhere for everybody, that we can somehow give what we do, not just to the particular group of people that can fit on all of our schedules, but we wanted to make this available. And we went around a lot of different ways about how we were going to do that and deliver it. And took us a while to figure that out. And ultimately, why we created the Live Your Potential program, which is the outcome that we give people, but it's a very integrative, comprehensive, clinically based, very deeply, it's got all components in it, spiritual, scientific, all of it, is because of that feeling that we know that any one of us could have been down that other route in life. And so as we now do this through the Live Your Potential program, where we can really help an extensive amount of people, Kristen, for people that just have never thought of a paradigm shift like this, and doing instead of working it in the old way, right? Working on it in all these 57 different ways, that there's now a process that can happen in a very quick period of time, comprehensively and all that. What would you say to people about this program who are wondering about it, who may be intimidated by it, or think, I can't, how can this work for me? Can it really work? Can I trust these people? What would you say to them?
Okay, so those are different questions,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so first of all, I think there's so many different things, right? There is the actual methodology that you'll understand by the end of the program. You will have knowledge to it. You'll have access to it for
Life.
life. Yeah. So you will always have the information available to you for whatever else you might come across in life. But the beauty is once you learn this, and I was actually just talking about this today, once you learn it, you don't unlearn it, right? And you might want to freshen up, or you might be going through a specific thing and want to look at something else for a perspective on it. But reality is, once you learn it, you don't unlearn it. It's a way of being. It's a way of showing up for your life. And so there's a couple of different things, right? The learning how to show up in your life in a way that can make you actually genuinely happy. And I almost don't want to say that, because I feel like some people won't believe that that's possible for them. And I think that I probably didn't think that I'd ever be happy. I didn't think that I'd ever be able to heal certain things. I don't think, I just thought that wasn't in the cards for me. Yeah. And I had a victim story around my life. I had a victim story about some things that I had happened to me, and so I didn't think that I would ever, it wasn't going to happen for me. And so I can understand how it can be hard to connect. Like when you're in a really dark place, it's really hard to connect in to something that feels extreme. But the reality is, even if it's just the next step that you want to feel, you'll feel that, and then you're going to feel the next step. So it's not this huge, you are going to go from here to here, but you're going to go here first, and then here, and then here, and it's not. So I think that comes with part of the disbelief. Is if I don't even believe that I can get here, right, then why would I believe you can do this for me? And it's about us taking you on this journey of rediscovering who you are and what you need to be happy, and then setting that up for yourself. And so I don't know how to get somebody to believe that it's possible for them, but what I can say is that wherever you are, if you are listening to this, and if you are considering this program, and if you are in that place, I know what you have to lose if you don't try something different and new. And I know what you have to gain if you do. And so even just in that gamble, it's not even really a gamble. It's what do you have to lose? And the reality is it works. I mean, we can, but obviously I recognize us saying that is, it is what it is, because we're on this side. But from my own just life and experience, I think that's one of the beauties of the coaches here is that we've all transformed our own lives. And that's why we're so passionate about it and passionate about helping other people get through it. And I think the other thing that people really discount is you can do all the things you want to do to try to change your life. But if you don't have somebody there that's holding you accountable and that is walking you through it and in it with you, the likelihood that you're going to stick to it, especially if you are in such a low place and like your energy levels are low, you don't want to get out of bed as it is, like you're not going to do the things you need to do to get to the next step. The likelihood is against you. I'm not saying nobody can do it by themselves, because you certainly can. Some people can. It's extremely, extremely hard.
And it's making
like
it harder, right?
Impossible.
Then it's making it harder. Yeah.
So you get a whole team in your corner. You have somebody to hold you accountable to make sure you show up. It's like that class you took, whatever, when like that class you took that you hated, that you still turned in the homework for because you had to, right? And guess what? You like, whether or not you decided you were going to learn, like actually retain the material or not, that was up to you. But like with this, you're going to retain it because it's going to transform you. Yeah. And so you've got somebody that's going to say, how are you showing up for yourself today? How did you show up? What are you doing? Are you putting this into practice? What are your questions? Like, why? Like, is there somewhere where you think that this doesn't relate to your life, and why? Like, let's look at it. Let me show you how it does. Like, it's not just getting the information and the methodology, but it's the way in which you're held in that process, right?
Yeah. Kristen, you're saying some very important things. Thank you. One is, and it's a good reminder for me because I am so passionate knowing that when someone enters our program, they are going to have the results they want and a whole other level of mind-blowing results that if we were to really explain them, they would continue the thing where people just think this sounds too good to be true, which is why I get that a lot. But Kristen makes a great point. When Coach Kristen says that you're going to get here, but you're going through a process, right? That's how you get there. You're going through a process, but it's an A to Z process. It's a strategic one with a strategic team, and it's done in a way so that each step of the way builds upon each other, and you really enjoy the process, right? It's really something that you want to do more of, and so that's a very different thing about, you can be excited. I want everybody to be excited about the accelerated way that this can happen compared to the 20-year, roadmap. But you go through they're very particular steps that make it so that you can take each step successfully. And to Kristen's other point, this is a very special world-class team of people who know exactly what each person needs at any given moment, and how to address any of you that might be in this program, come into this program with what you need in the way that we need to coach you through it. And there's just a real phenomenal commitment to that, so that it doesn't matter what's going on. We do know exactly how to move every single person through that moment. And it just doesn't matter what it is. In fact, we get more excited when there's something new that we need to do to make that happen. And so the difference too that Kristen is really ended up highlighting beautifully is that you've got to have people with you like Coach Kristen and my amazing team that I'm going to introduce you all to over time here, is that are as committed to your outcomes as you are, who are like carrying around in them, moving that person to the next level, right? Where we've got our own scoreboard of how we want to see that happen, and we want to feel that great moment and hear that great breakthrough. And that's a really important part of what pulls people along and gets them the progress. All right. Would you agree, Kristen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just important. It's so important that you have somebody that's in your corner, and not just somebody that's in your corner, because obviously you can have your family in your corner, you can have people in your corner, but people that know what they're doing.
Yeah, people that
Like
exactly.
people like that really know what you're doing, that aren't checking out. Like you're not checking in for a 1 hour appointment, and then they're not thinking about you ever again if you don't show back up on their couch. Like this is like it's a process where we are with you in it versus something that's super transactional.
Right, Kristen. Lastly, I just want to check in on something kind of even more fun here is from your perspective, Kristen is one of our coaches that takes people through this program. From your perspective, what is your favorite thing that you witness? The things that just make it cool for you as you see people going through this Live Your Potential program at any stage of it. Or what are if it's one thing or the pieces of it? What do you love about it?
Well, for me, I think there's a certain point in the program. So, we have people, you've got your starting point and your finishing point, right? It's like from A to Z. And every bit builds on each other. So everybody, people have a similar experience at different parts of the path. And so as people, are coming through, they're having their different breakthroughs. And it's really fun actually to see the people at the end of the road having experiences with people at the beginning of the road, and where they've completely shifted something and somebody else comes through with the exact same, like, so it's almost like so person A, yeah. I know where they're going, right? I know where they're going when we're working through what they're bringing to me. Person B we've already worked through that and has just had a phenomenal, like all of a sudden they show up and tell me that things have changed in one day from listening to some of the later content about the same thing, right, that's happening over here. And so there are some things, there's some consistent themes that come up, and being able to witness people's, first of all, just being able to witness their growth, but being able to see people who are at this different points, but like that person was there and they're like talking to each other. It's fantastic. It's just kind of like this like foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And
here's what's coming. You're gonna go there.
And so it's I think that part is really great about the program too, because then it's when you get started, you've got people in there that like can say, hey, like I felt that exact same way when I did that portion, or like, yes, those things were coming up too. And then you can have somebody saying like, yes, that's how it was, but this is how it is now. And just wait until you get to this part. And so I really love the interaction of people who are on, like, might be on part B and might be on part, Y, and how that all plays out. For me, that's a lot of fun.
I think that's my favorite part too. I think that
it's fun because like people, they'll be asking, you're asking a question and you're like, hey, so and so, do you want to take this one? Like,
no, it's really that is my favorite part. Yeah. It definitely is where because I think what Kristen's also speaking to as well is that we get this beautiful vantage point of knowing wherever somebody starts and however their unique experience is going to be in the program is totally designed to create the outcomes, no matter what is going on with anybody or what it takes for them to get to any certain stage or any moment of breaking through. And to know that we know that we're going to see that, we know that, and then the people that have that are later in the program, they're watching that same thing that we do, where somebody's coming in and then they know, oh, that's going to be amazing. And they're sort of wishing they could hang out longer. I was having somebody say that they're wishing they could hang out longer to see what happens to this new person. And anyway, so thank you, Kristen. I'm going to just have us close today by saying that, again, I guess I'll say for any of you that now are interested to tune in, right, to live your potential programming, and you might want to go down this path yourself or explore what might be possible for you, so that you can have the experiences like we're talking about and get to work with the amazing coach Kristen, who will literally rock your world. If you're interested, if you're open to checking it out, there's going to be a schedule link that we'll put when we post this video. And know that, all it is a conversation to talk about where you are, where you want to go. And if what we do is a fit for that, we'll let you know about how that works. And if not, we'll definitely make sure that you get sent down a path that you need to go for what you're needing. But don't let any sort of sense of feeling like it can't work for you, or any intimidation about what we're talking about today get in the way. Hopefully this is has inspired you to just give yourself permission to see what's possible, and get to meet us, and and see what the rest of your life can be like. We really hope we get to talk to you, because it's our favorite thing in the world to help people, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.